Hello. We've been running all over Zurich today, looking at the various churches and particularly concentrating on Ulrich Zwingli, that famous reformer, all that he did, looking at that Bible that you just saw images of and all the other things that happened at that very exciting time right there at the beginning of the 16th century and on. And we are the heirs of that Reformation too. However, this week we're looking at number 11, Backslidden People. This is in our series on Ezra and Nehemiah. And it's a tragedy, even thinking about that exciting time of the Reformation. They didn't always get it right then, and then later on things turn into formalism and, well, you know what happens to churches, and we struggle with that ourselves in our faith community. We don't want it to become something that is so formal and structured. We've always said we are the Advent movement and not anything of a concretized, if I could put it that way, denomination. So that's one thing. We're thinking now about backslidden people, and it's a big surprise when we read in Nehemiah 13 about the Ammonites and the Moabites being allowed in when they're not supposed to be, how Tobias is allowed to even have a room there in the temple. They give him all these privileges when that's not supposed to happen. Worse still, when Nehemiah leaves and goes back to report back to the king, to take up his duties there for a little while before he comes back again, the temple services cease because the Levites aren't being paid, essentially. They're not getting the tithes, the offerings that they should do in order to have, they can eat by the produce of the other people. And so they have to go back and start cultivating their own fields and working for themselves. So everything lapses just because Nehemiah isn't there any longer. It just shows you the influence of the leadership, and it also shows you how people are prone to sort of say, well, you know, we can do whatever we want. The people say, well, we're not going to give any more tithes and offerings. Nehemiah's not here to worry us. He doesn't care about what we're doing here. He's back there in Babylon reporting to the king. We can do what we like. And so the Levites said, well, we have to do what we want then, because otherwise we won't be able to eat, our families will starve, so we have to go back and do our own thing too. So now let's apply that to ourselves in terms of backslidden people. If we claim to know the truth and we don't do it, if we say, well, it doesn't really matter, these observances aren't really important, then we can justify all that we do because we're that kind of people. Yeah, we can be rather like them as well, can't we? So I think as we look at this lesson, it should teach us not so much about the people then, but the fact that backsliding, going back to the way you used to be, accepting the ways of the world, saying, well, it doesn't really matter that much, God isn't so particular, not understanding that God gives us all this in terms of rules and regulations to help us, to say if you don't live the right way, you're not going to be happy people, and you're going to suffer and you're going to bring problems on yourself. So let's not see God as being the policeman who is always pernickety, worrying about which rule we keep. No, he's there like a physician, giving us good advice about our diet, the way we should live our lives, prescribing medicine which if we don't take, we will be in trouble, and so on. It's a much more important metaphor, I think, to think of salvation as healing rather than just keeping up with the accounts, the legal system, and so on. So in order to avoid the backsliding, what do? We need to establish a very close relationship with our God, not asking what does he demand, but what is he trying to help me with? How is he trying to bless me? How is he trying to give me all that is good, because that's the kind of person he truly is. May we not be backsliding people. May we be forward-looking, progressive people looking forward to being home with our loving Lord.